I hadn't been home in almost 3 years. Not because of a falling out, exactly. More like a slow erosion. Phone calls that got shorter. Updates passed through my sister instead of directly to me. A sense that I had slipped into a version of myself my parents found easier to explain to other people. I arrived late on purpose. The engagement dinner was already underway, voices overlapping, forks clicking too loudly against plates. My dad's laugh cut through everything. The same laugh he'd had my whole life, the one that meant he was holding court. When I stepped inside, conversation stalled for a moment, then resumed with polite adjustments. "Oh," my dad said, glancing at my hands. "You made it." My mom stood, smoothed her blouse, and hugged me with the careful affection reserved for relatives you're not quite sure how to talk about anymore. "This is for Emily," I said, holding out the bottle of wine. She smiled. "That's nice of you." "Nice of you." As if I'd done something unexpected but harmless, my dad gestured toward the empty chair near the end of the table. "Sit. We were just talking about work." He emphasized the word slightly, like it needed quotation marks when applied to me. Emily caught my eye from across the table. My little sister, now engaged, now glowing in that way people do when their future feels decided. She gave me a small apologetic smile. I didn't blame her. Families assign roles early, and hers had come with better lighting. "So," my dad continued, not waiting for me to sit before he went on, "Emily was telling everyone you're still bartending." The word landed with the practiced ease of something he'd said before. I nodded. "Yeah," he snorted, just once, sharp and dismissive. "He's just a bartender," he said to the table, like he was clarifying a misunderstanding. A few people laughed politely. Someone murmured, "Well, someone has to do it." I felt the old reflex to explain, to qualify, to add context. The late nights. The travel. The fact that it wasn't what they thought it was anymore. But I'd learned that explanations given too early sound like excuses. So I didn't say anything. Emily stood up then. "Oh, Mark, you haven't met my brother yet." Mark turned from the person beside him and extended his hand. He was tall, confident, the kind of man who filled a room without trying. He smiled easily. "Nice to finally meet you," he said. "Emily's told me a lot." I shook his hand. He froze, not dramatically. Just enough that I noticed. His grip tightened, then loosened. His eyes flicked to my face again, searching. "Sorry," he said, a beat too late. "What was your name again?" I told him. He nodded slowly. "Right? Of course." The conversation stumbled forward, but Mark didn't quite rejoin it. When he sat back down, he pulled his phone from his pocket with an air of casualness that fooled no one. He angled the screen low, thumb moving quickly. I recognized the look, not fear exactly, but recalibration. The table grew quieter. Not silent yet. Words started to trail off. My dad noticed first. "What?" he said. "What's with the phones now? We're right here." Mark looked up. His face had gone pale in a way that didn't match the room's warmth. He stopped himself. Cleared his throat. "Sorry, I was just checking something." "Checking what?" my dad asked, half amused, half irritated. Mark didn't answer immediately. He looked at Emily instead. There was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Respect, maybe, or caution. "You didn't mention," he said carefully, "that your brother." Emily frowned. "That he what?" That's when Mark glanced back at me. As if asking permission. I gave a small shrug. Not agreement, just neutrality. Mark exhaled. "You didn't tell me he was the one who testified in the Calder case." The name landed heavily. A few people at the table straightened without realizing it. My dad blinked. "The what case?" Mark swallowed. "The Calder financial investigation, the one that shut down 3 firms. It was all over the news last year." Silence this time. Real silence. My mom's hand paused halfway to her glass. Emily stared at me, her smile gone. My dad laughed once, uncertain. "You've got the wrong guy." Mark shook his head. "No, I don't." He hesitated, then added, "I worked adjacent to that case. Compliance." His name came up a lot. I felt every eye turn toward me, waiting for clarification, for correction, for some explanation that would let everything settle back into its familiar shape. I didn't give it to them. I make drinks, I said simply. And sometimes I listen. Mark let out a breath he'd been holding. You were a protected witness. I nodded. That's not. My dad stopped, recalibrating in real time. Why wouldn't you tell us? I looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd reduced my life to a punchline 30 minutes earlier. You never asked, I said. No one argued with that. The authority in the room shifted then, not because anyone stood up or raised their voice, but because information had replaced assumption. The kind of information that couldn't be laughed off. My dad leaned back in his chair, suddenly unsure where to put his hands. My mom's expression moved through confusion and something like pride before settling into discomfort. Emily spoke softly. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, I said. A few years ago. You told me not to be dramatic. She flinched. Mark cleared his throat. For what it's worth, he said, looking around the table. What he did took nerve. A lot of people stayed quiet. No one responded. The dinner limped on after that. Conversation returned, technically, but the ease was gone. Every remark seemed to pass through a filter first, weighed against the new version of me no one knew how to handle yet. I didn't correct anyone. Didn't fill in gaps. Let them sit with it. When I stood to leave, my dad rose too quickly. You should come by more, he said, trying for casual. We should talk. Maybe, I said outside. The night air felt clean. Honest. I walked to my car without looking back, knowing that whatever they said about me next time, it wouldn't be as simple as before.